everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to Carly B TV. I'm Dr. Karlisha Booze. For this week's Wellness Wednesday, we're going to be talking about mental health patients and how the pandemic has impacted them. So this morning, I have Dr. Figueroa. He's from Piedmont, Macon. And he's going to talk more about how the pandemic has impacted mental health patients. So good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So start off, Dr. Figueroa, by talking about how has the pandemic affected people with their emotional stress? Have you seen different changes in patients since the pandemic?
Definitely. This COVID infections have definitely affected our communities in a very negative way. You know, so many factors about it that has an effect on that. The social isolation, the stress of lost jobs and financial issues, you know, the losing people, the fear of going to the hospital, all that has resulted in increased stress, and people that already have some mental health issues, an exacerbation of their problems. So we have seen an increase in complaints of depression, anxiety, and some substance abuse issues at a rise as well.
So elaborate a little bit more when you talk about the substance abuse. Have you seen, particularly during the pandemic, more patients turning to substance abuse?
Yes, during the period of the highest COVID infections in 2020, there has been a 13% of US population that have said they either started using drugs or drinking or have been doing more than they used to. And again, I mean, things like being stressed out and self-medication, things like social isolation, when people drink or use drugs on their own by themselves, you know, it tends to be a lot higher and more of a problem that we're doing on a social basis.
Okay. Now, over the last year, a lot of patients have, put off going to regular doctor visits. So, what can people do to continue to stay safe and maintain their physical, body and their mind, while putting off these doctor visits? What do you recommend?
Well, the social restrictions have been a significant problem because when you don't have access to your resources, you know, things tend to get worse and you can't tell anybody. Thankfully, I think the medical community has tried to kind of go around that by increasing access through telephone and more important, telemedicine. You know, a lot of our therapists, doctors have now been very comfortable establishing telemedicine to talk to their patients on their iPhones, you know, from the office. So it's important that anyone out there thinking, I'm not feeling well, I'm getting worse, look for these alternatives, both the telephone calls, the telemedicine by phone, and there's kind of a still limited access to things like social groups and group therapies, but still, interestingly enough, people can do group therapy on Zoom and telemedicine with fairly good results.
Last question. We're switching gears just a little bit. Let's talk about, maybe mental health uh, uh, kids, younger adults. Let's say they're going back to school. They're used to working from home, with their virtual learning and stuff. What do you recommend parents can do with some younger adults that have that mental illness that are just transitioning back to the classroom?
I think, first of all, very close coordination with their therapists and their doctors will be important because every kid has a different situation. Now, I kind of welcome the fact that we're going to try to socialize our kids again. I think the parents need to be very, very aware of CDC kind of guidelines in terms of masking and social distances and coordinate that with the teachers. I mean, because again, I think the best result will be one, everyone can talk to each other and be sure that we know what our kids need.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap things up?
No, I'm kind of very, very optimistic about the rise in vaccinations in this country, and I would like every viewer to kind of consider doing that for the sake of themselves and our communities.
All right. And thank you. And thank you, everyone else, for tuning in to Carly B TV. Make sure you check out our next Wellness Wednesday. Have a great day.
Hey, are you experiencing algae, mold, dirt, or pollen around the foundation of your home and your driveway? If so, call Reed's when you're in need. Reed's Power Washing Service has next day service available. Select service less than 2 hours. You're thinking, Reed's Power Washing Service is homes, that's all we do. Nah, we do it all. Driveways, fences, porches, and we clean your rides. So call that number on your screen today and get you a free quote.